Okay, so I lied. This video is actually the last video of this year, and not the last video I did, which was my official review of Wonder Woman 1984. Now, I watched that movie 5 days ago, and the movie officially dropped 2 days ago. And I've been thinking about what I said and just the movie in general for a while, and I have some thoughts. So, obviously, with my review dropping and like just me talking about the movie, I have been looking at some reviews online and what other people are talking about the movie, and it seems that a lot of people are very disappointed. Like very. Some people, it's either like there's no in between. There are some people saying that oh, it's not bad, it's okay, but the majority of people are saying that it was not good at all. I've also seen a few who have said that they really did enjoy the movie, but the vast majority, it seems, didn't really like the movie that much. This video isn't made in response to those comments, like at all. Like, this video is not in response to any of them or just me changing my overall thoughts about the movie just to side with everyone else. It's not like this at all. It's not like that at all, I mean. It's just that I thought that my initial review wasn't that good because my end score didn't really correlate with what I had said about the movie. Like I wasn't bashing the movie, but I had a lot of negative feedback. I'm pretty sure like most of the review was spent talking about negative things rather than positive things, and the end score I gave was pretty high, so I want to kind of redo, well, not redo, everything that I said in that video stands, but I just kind of, I want to go through some of the things that I missed, because I feel like I missed a lot of things in that video, and most of that was due to the fact that I just came home from the theaters that day, so I was like, let's just drop the review now, get it nice and early, and yeah, that caused me to miss a lot of things and miss talking about a lot of things just because I was trying to shy away from giving away spoilers as well, even though looking back at it, I think that video, yeah, I spoiled some things without even realizing it, so that's my bad, but I just didn't think things through too much, just because I wanted to be early and, post my thoughts. Not saying that like everything I said in that video was false. I still stand by most, if not like all, 95% of the things I said in that video. So do go check that video out if you want my first initial thoughts on the movie, because this is, yeah, this is a spoiler talk, so count this as kind of like part two of that video, a continuation where I just speak my mind freely and talk about the things I missed and correct myself, because I feel like I just feel like I need to do this. Yeah, it's just been on my mind for quite a while, like the movie dropped, people giving their thoughts about the movie. I some of the things I said during that video, the first one, I feel like I need to just elaborate on them a lot more, and it feels good. I mean, listen, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I enjoyed the movie. I did. I feel like a lot of people are overanalyzing the movie, and that, because the first movie was so good, they expect big things from this movie, and it didn't deliver. And I'm gonna side with them, but also side with myself as well. I did enjoy this movie to some extent. I didn't hate it. I was disappointed in a lot of areas though. But the performances of all the actors and just from that aspect kind of saved the movie for me a little bit. But no, let's just start from the beginning. It feels so good to talk about the movie now again. It actually does. I don't know why, and that I can talk about it freely because this is a spoiler talk. But yeah, let's just get into it, and I'm gonna save you guys from talking too much about what happens in the movie. I guess I will for context, but everyone at this point probably knows what the movie's gonna be about, so I'm gonna spare you from that. But Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Now, we are put in this scene where Diana is competing against all these other like Amazon women in this Olympic stadium, Olympic event or whatever, and you see her climbing these things. I don't know what you call them, but going through all these obstacles. It's like a triathlon or like a race or whatever. And I enjoyed it for like, I'd say the first 2 minutes. I was like, wow, this is cool, you know. Immediately we're into the action, we're seeing what's going on. But then so we see Diana, young Diana Prince, she stumbles, right? And she falls off the horse, and then she takes a shortcut down, and then she arrives back first, even though she should have been last, and then she gets put aside, disqualified for cheating. Now, right from the get-go, now this is why I love talking about the movie now, once it's finally released. I can talk about it so much more freely and not really care too much about, you know, what other people say or whatnot. But there are a lot of things I missed during my first review, just because I skip past things a little bit too easily. And that's my fault, that's my bad, but now I'm going to cover those things. So I didn't talk about the beginning, because I thought that review was a little bit too over time. So I'm going to talk about it now. Now, I thought that for the scene, two questions already arose from it. So first off, why couldn't Diana Prince just have gotten the bow and arrow with her? Like, kept it with her while she was going down that path? Because I was like, in my head, you needed to shoot those things, like those, I don't know what you call it, but that round disc with all the different players, kind of like checkpoints in a sense. And why didn't she just grab the bow and arrow and just take it with her? Like, or maybe she forgot. I don't know. And also, when her mother pushed her aside just to say that she was disqualified, why couldn't Diana just say to her that something happened? Like, I was waiting for her to say, like, instead of just crying, which is understandable, and listening, like, that's fine, but why couldn't she just say that she stumbled? Like, and then her mother just acknowledge that and be, oh, okay, that's what happened, but next time, try not to cheat. Something like that. Like, I was waiting for that kind of moment. It might still be, it's probably just a little thing, smaller detail that doesn't really matter, but I guess the overall problem I have with this scene from the get-go is that even though I loved the first few minutes because it set up the movie quite nicely, it just felt like it felt like it was at a very odd place in the movie. It didn't really make sense. It was like, it just felt like it was there to be there and not really serve too much of a purpose for like any other part of the movie. Like, it had no really real reference or impact. I probably forgot about that scene like, what, an hour or half an hour into the movie even. Basically, I just feel like, yeah, like I said, this scene was just made to be there. It was just made to set up the movie, just to show the Amazons and just to say, hey, that's what happened, you know? Like, give reference to the first movie, like, hey, there's her mother again. There's all the Amazons. Here's where she grew up. Like, it's just a reference, and it didn't really serve any purpose to the entire movie, unlike the first one. Now, I really love the first movie because the beginning was kind of like the ending, you know? We see Diana strolling and this truck with Wayne Industries on it. I can't remember, but something that references Bruce Wayne. And then her going into this museum, like, I guess where she works and worked, and then her flipping over a photograph, which she clearly got at the end of the movie. See, like, it kind of, like, it's really nice to see that, and at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, that first scene makes sense now. Well, we didn't really get that for Wonder Woman 1984. So that's one of the talking points that I had that I missed from the first video. So there's that. But now let's move to the plot, because the plot Now, people have been talking about this for a while, and it's one of the big talking points, and a lot of people are disappointed because the plot is just wild, it's bizarre, it didn't quite make too much sense, and I would have to side with them on this one. Again, I'm not making this video just to change my opinion to fit in with the norm or what everyone else is saying. Like, that's not it at all. I just feel like a lot of the points that I'm raising in this video, either I've missed completely from the first video, or I just want to elaborate on it further. That's basically it. Okay, so the point of the plot revolves around this dreamstone that apparently grants you a wish. You know, whatever you say, like when you say the phrase "I wish," you know, Diana, she wishes for her past boyfriend Steve Trevor to be back, and Barbara wishes that she could be strong and powerful like Wonder Woman, and Maxwell Lord wishes to be the Dreamstone. Yeah, look, I stand by what I said in my first video. This plot, it's very open-ended. Like, you can do pretty much anything with it, and that's when I feel like we've seen this time and time again, and it could be also called a lazy way of, you know, telling a story, or just, you know. So I'm not a big fan of the plot at all. I just thought that maybe it had some reference to some comic. Let me know if you think, or if you know that's the case, like if this movie is following a comic very closely or not, because I'm not very, I don't know DC comics that much. But anyway, like, coming back to my point, like, I was honestly very excited all the way throughout the movie, and I wasn't very bored at all. I was for maybe the first act, like because there was a bit of a weird pacing element to the movie. Like, after, you know, we get the scene where Wonder Woman is like saving people in a shopping mall, it kind of goes, the pacing kind of goes to a halt, and then it's very slow paced with little to no action for like a good portion of the movie, and I was kind of bored until Wonder Woman started, or I guess Dinah Prince, because she wasn't really Wonder Woman at that point, for a big portion of the first half of the movie. I was very excited when she started researching the Dreamstone and just like figuring out what, and just finding out that it vanished, like in Maxwell Lord's office when she and her and Steve Trevor were breaking into it. And then her mention of another god, like there was something that's bigger among all this other stuff, and I was really excited. I was excited the whole way through, like wondering what was gonna happen, right until the end, where, you know, like the big reveal, I guess, or the big kind of conclusion. Not really big, honestly, because all we see is just like Wonder Woman putting the lasso of truth around Maxwell Lord, and then him just, or her talking. It's confusing. Those who have watched the movie know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was until that point where I was like, oh, that's it. The way everything works out in the end fell really flat for me. Like, you think back in the first Wonder Woman movie against Ares, how exciting that battle for me. That battle was easily one of the, if not the best part of that movie. And I wish Wonder Woman would fight someone else like that. But instead, she fought the cheetah for like 10 minutes. And that's also one thing that I missed out of my first video, you know, her fight with the cheetah. And I gotta say, that fight was very underwhelming. Look, I didn't really notice the CGI. A lot of people have said that the CGI was bad. I didn't notice it. I didn't care too much about it. I thought it was fine. But that might be just because of the lack of lighting in that scene. They were going for a low lighting approach. Yeah. Look, it might have painted a very, maybe not very, but a realistic environment, somewhat of a realistic environment, being that it's dark out and there's not many lights and stuff. But it was just kind of hard to make sense what was happening just because the scene was so dark. And the fight also didn't last that long. And the ending, like how Wonder Woman was drowning the cheetah, and then, you know, the electric fuse, whatever, fell in the water and electrified them both. I mean, well, apparently Wonder Woman didn't get electrified. Only the cheetah did. I don't know if, like, that makes sense or not, but I guess Wonder Woman's immune to that and the cheetah's not. I don't know, but I assume that's what happened. But overall, like, I guess what like, we don't learn what happens to Barbara after. Like, we just see her watching the sunrise, maybe reminiscing about what she did. She apparently revoked her wish as well, I'm guessing. The end it was very bizarre. It's hard to talk about, and it just doesn't make too much sense. But overall, this movie, it kind of paints the villains as the good guys. Kind of like what a lot of superhero or a lot of movies do or have done in the past. And I guess I'm not a big fan of that approach. I'm more of a fan of having a villain that's really strong and powerful and just evil and just someone that I want to fucking beat up myself. You know, like that. Like just a really terrible villain. And, you know, but in the end, everything works out, and it's just like, it's not as exciting, that's for sure. Now let's move on to let's move away from that. I guess I talked about that a lot during my first video, but let's move on to Steve Trevor. Now, Chris Pine, you know, like I said, he's back as Steve Trevor in another man's body. I didn't talk about that in my first video, but yeah, look, I didn't bat an eye. I honestly forgot that he was in another man's body for a big portion of this movie when he was in the scene. Yeah, I guess that's because it's weird because we as the audience and through Diana Prince's perspective see that guy as Steve Trevor's character, but not as the guy that he suddenly controlled just randomly. Like, it was confusing because in the trailer I saw Chris Pine as Steve Trevor when they met. Like, it was in the trailer. But then, like, in the first scene that we see the first kind of connection or conversation between them, I guess, we see a different character. I don't know this actor's name, but it's a different actor, and I was confused because I was like, what? Because there's some kind of conversation that, you know, makes her believe that she's Steve, but we don't actually see Steve, like as in the first movie. And then it kind of transitions, and then we see Steve. It's like, it was just kind of confusing, that moment. But no, I mean, look, he appears in another man's body. I mean, I didn't think too much of it. I was just like, okay, that's what happened. And I guess it kind of makes sense because, you know, like Maxwell Lord said, or I guess what Diana found out was that, like, when you wish something bad happens in return. Like, it's like that phrase, careful what you wish for. Like, we see that here. And so, in my mind, it makes sense from that way, I guess. A lot of other people aren't that convinced, though, but I'm like, whatever. I'm not very overcritical when it comes to movies, so I just go along with, like, the ride. I just go along with what the movie's trying to show me and try to make sense. And I'm like, if it makes sense, then okay. I mean, even if it's weird, but yeah. Like I also said in the first video, there was a lack of action until the part where when Egypt and Wonder Woman suddenly emerged, and that was an amazing scene. I thought that the action in this movie, while there was a bigger lack of it, and I would have loved to see more of it, was still pretty good, but definitely not on par as with the first movie. Like, there wasn't as many scenes. It felt more slow paced, and the action scenes weren't as good. Or yeah, that's basically it. But it was still okay. Like, some were good, some were meh. And I remember my first video, I said that the action was really good. Like, it was really good, but you kind of expect that from a movie like this. Now looking back at it though, like with what I said with the fight with the cheetah, and I feel like that was the only action scene that I wasn't too convinced or liked that much. So everything else, I mean, that Egypt scene was insane. Like, it was really cool. Like, that was amazing. That was what you expect from the movie like that, but just wait a minute. Is that the only action? Oh, and then we see the one where she was fighting Barbara as the cheetah for the first time. Are those the only action scene in this movie? The first one with the in the shopping mall, that doesn't really have too much of an impact in the overall movie. That's just to set Wonder Woman up and just to show her before we go into 40, 50, an hour long of footage with no Wonder Woman. And then we see her in Egypt, and then the fight with Barbara, and then that's 4 action scenes. What? But anyway, that's besides the point. Now, back with what I was saying with the Egypt scene, I could have sworn, like, when Diana was hit with the bullet, like the wound here, that like we didn't see her with the wound in one scene when she had her legs up against the truck from her being like crushed together. And then in the next scene, we saw her with the wound. So it was like on and off. I swore that's what I saw. So either I didn't see that correctly or what, but I remember at the time of watching it, I was like, wait a minute, where'd that wound come from? It wasn't in the previous scene. But anyway, that's just a small little detail that I thought I saw. Hopefully that wasn't just me though, and if someone could correct me, then that'd be lovely. But yeah, it makes sense because you could see in that scene that she was weak. She was getting weaker because she wished for something and that she got something bad in return. That's what this plot revolves around. And, you know, that's fine. I just went with it, but it kind of doesn't make too much sense because from what I can see, everyone who wished something only got one thing bad in return. Like Barbara, she lost her personality and loving self. Maxwell Lord, he was losing health. Like he had a bloodshot eye for a good portion of this movie. Kind of looks scary. And you know, that's what happened to him. Well, Wonder Woman, she lost her powers, but she also had Steve Trevor come back as another man. So, you know, it's whatever. I mean, whatever. Like, this is what I'm getting at and what I was talking about in my first video. Like, this plot is just open-ended, and that's where I have most of the issues with. And let me clear something here. Now, even though I have these issues with this movie, the main thing being the plot, I would say, like with the Dreamstone and all that, even though I had those problems, I still enjoyed this movie. I don't know why. It's just, is it me? I don't know. Like, after watching the movie, I was like, oh, it was pretty good. I still had a good time with it, even though there are some problems. I guess I'm just not overcritical like I was talking about. But I think what saved it for me was Gal Gadot and like Chris Pine and Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal. Like, I thought all of them did a really good job, and I really enjoyed the performances. Like, let me know what you think and what you thought about that, because me personally, I really enjoyed the performances, and that's what kind of saved this movie for me. Even though the plot, I mean, I've seen a ton of movies, and I've seen a lot of really weird and bizarre plots. And even though this one wasn't one of my favorites, I still enjoyed like where it took me. And I would say the only disappointing thing about this movie was the end. That was the only thing, because I'm comparing this movie to the first one, right? And the first one had a really insane, hidden, like you didn't expect it at all, but Ares just pops out of nowhere, right? And then that boss fight was amazing, but here it just falls flat. Like everything just works itself out, and it's just Wonder Woman talking in an intercom to the rest of the world, and it's like, pff, that's it, you know? And in a really bizarre way as well, because she uses the lasso and like Maxwell Lord wasn't even aware, and yeah, that part of the movie was the most disappointing part of the movie. And I would also say the lack of action, although for those a large good portion of those minutes, I was I'd be lying if I say I wasn't bored, or I wasn't slightly bored. I was, but I was still interested. I was keen to know what was going on, you know, and that Egypt scene made up for it, because that was probably one of the best scenes in this movie. Look, I might have missed some other things about this movie, but at this point, I feel like I've said all that's needed to say about Wonder Woman 1984. Overall, I feel like a lot of people are overanalyzing this movie. I'm not going to deny that some parts of this movie were bad, but there were also some good parts of this movie. And I could definitely see why a lot of people won't like this movie at all, you know, as compared like to the first one. Like the first one was just so good. So a lot of people, including me, came in with high expectations but was let down. I can definitely see that. But for me, I wasn't let down that much. I still enjoyed it despite what anyone says, and I'm in one of these situations. I'm glad, but people might envy me. Oh man, but overall, like I would have to change my grade to, because originally at that point I was thinking whether to give the movie a B or a B plus, and I gave it a B plus. Now after like thinking back, and because at the point of making my first review, I didn't think too much. I only had the time it took for me to travel back to my house to think about what I was gonna say. It's because I for some reason wanted it up ASAP. You know, I just wanted my initial thoughts, and those were it. But so I missed a lot of things, and I was overhyped. I was kind of hypey because it was an early release and I got to see it first. But now that I've had a chance to actually think about the movie, like I spent the past 5 days just thinking about it, just looking at what everyone's saying and just thinking about it. And I wouldn't say their opinions have changed the way I view or what I thought about the movie. But I would definitely say that what a lot of people are saying caused me to realize that I missed out on a lot of things in my first video. And I forgot to elaborate on a lot of things because, you know, I think that was one of the reviews that, because normally I wait like a few hours before making a review. So like maybe half a day. Like I come home from the theaters, I relax a bit. I have like 5 hours to think about what I'm going to say. But that day I barely had any time, like an hour, if not, like, you know. But now I've thought about it, I'd say that Wonder Woman, for me, I'd give either a B minus or a B. I'm not particularly sure, but let's just say in between. Ultimately, the overall downside of this movie comes from the plot. It's confusing at times. It's bizarre. It doesn't make a lot of sense to the viewer sometimes, and also the action and the special effects are below par if you compare it to the first movie, that is. Everything else though I loved, and I would definitely say that this movie has made me respect Gal Gadot a lot more as an actor, because I thought her performance and everyone else's was pretty good. Like, I actually enjoyed Kristen Wiig's acting as well. I thought her character was interesting. Her whole character arc, seeing that she was kind of left out in the end, I felt, but overall I liked her performances as the shy, timid girl at first. As the cheater though, not too much, but before that I enjoyed her performance. And Pedro Pascal, I thought he was pretty funny in this movie. Even though I don't really have any emotional connection to him, I don't really feel for the character, because it's just we're left in an awkward position where he has emotional moments as well, like with his kid, even though he's the villain. I didn't really feel that, but I thought his character was funny. I had a fun time with him as the villain. Like, he was just, I don't know. But yeah, there you go, guys. This is part 2. I wasn't gonna make this video. It's been more than 30 minutes, but there you have it. I mean, not a lot of people watch this video, but hey, like, I just want to elaborate on some of the thoughts I had in a much more free manner. But yeah, I mean, guys, let me know what you think. Like and sub if you enjoy and want to see more, and also Happy New Year, I guess. But yeah, also feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.